What up guys, it's Coach Daron, and today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of the outfighter boxing style, which many of you have identified with, and you've told me in the comments of my previous video, the 4 boxing styles. And on that note, I just want to also say thank you to the guys, those of you who've bought my Golden Gloves course on my website, CoachDaronBoxing.com. A lot of benefit there, I go really deep into the nuances of boxing and to help you get ready for a competition. So now that you've identified your core style as a boxer, counterpuncher, outfighter, you need to know the pros and cons so that you can elevate your fight game. So the counterpuncher, outfighter, again, likes to maintain distance, is always trying to create distance with their opponent. So when their opponent comes forward, they're normally gonna step back or angle off to the side or whatever. Generally, the counterpuncher doesn't like to come forward too much. They want to engage on their own terms, and they prefer that their opponent throw first so they can counter them. So number one, it's safer to engage your opponent after they throw at you. So this is what counterpunchers want, because when your opponent throws at you, they tend to leave themselves, a lot of fighters tend to leave themselves exposed or vulnerable. Meaning sometimes their chin is sticking out, or they may drop their hands, or they're too flat-footed, and they become easy pickings for a very fast, sharp, technical counterpuncher. So those of us who like to counterpunch, we're looking for these technical flaws, and they normally come to light after your opponent throws at you. Number 2, good counterpunchers can frustrate their opponents with aggressive counterpunching. And note I said aggressive. And by that I mean throwing just more than one punch, not just one or not just single punches. You really have to, if you really want to frustrate your man, you got to throw multiple punches with your counterpunching. Anyhow, with that said, imagine you got somebody in front of you who loves to leave their offense with their jab. But every time they throw their jab, you counter with the right hand. You slip counter, or you just throw the overhand on top, or you slip and dig in a left hook to the body, or you just jab with them. They slip and throw your jab. So what that tends to do, it'll happen to any one of us. You tend to get discouraged from throwing that jab. And if their jab is their best punch, and you can discourage them from throwing that, then it opens up a whole new offense for you. You know what I'm saying? So this is the key to a good aggressive counterpunching technique, and to frustrating your opponent. Number 3 is good aggressive counterpunching will favor you well in competition, because judges look for that. It leaves a good impression in the mind of judges when you are finishing the exchanges with your opponent. Whether you lead and then counter, or just counter everything your opponent does, it leaves a good impression in the minds of the judges. So what are the cons of this outfighter counterpunching style? The first thing that comes to mind is some of these fighters can sometimes be a little bit too passive. You know, constantly waiting, backpedaling, sidestepping, and looking for that moment to counter a punch. And what happens when you're constantly in that type of passive mode, you lose the momentum of the fight. Your opponent will actually steal the momentum from you, and before you know it, time is up, the round is over. So I see this happen quite often when guys get too much into that zone of I'm gonna wait, and look for that right moment. So don't fall into that trap. The second thing is these counterpunchers, because they're very skilled, they're very technical, they're very fast, and they love to use their range and their speed and so forth. The problem is when you have a very aggressive fighter who knows how to cut off the ring, who knows how to back you up and apply pressure and make you fight in the pocket, sometimes we see counterpunchers kind of fold up in the pocket because they can't really use the gifts, their God-given gifts, that speed, that quick reaction. You can't do that in the pocket, you know what I mean? So they have to fight at a different range that requires a whole different skill set and mentality. And some of them have not prepared themselves for that. So they tend to clinch in the pocket, you'll notice. They'll clinch, or they'll keep trying to escape when you need to be able to handle yourself in close range to be a complete fighter. And lastly, when we're talking about competition, again, it's not a good look in front of the judges to be the one who's always waiting around, backpedaling, especially if you're not an aggressive counterpuncher. Judges don't mind if you are, if you're gonna counterpunch, as long as you are very aggressive. But if you're playing that waiting game and constantly moving, and you're not taking charge, you're not being the boss in the ring, it's not a good look. Judges want to see fighters control the center of the ring and taking charge, initiating, throwing volume. So sometimes counterpunchers, they don't want to do that. All right, they want to just constantly create space and constantly slow down the pace of the fight. So that's another trap. Don't fall into that. Again, be the take charge guy in the ring. Just because you're a counterpuncher or an outsider doesn't mean you can't take charge and initiate and be the boss in there. You know what I mean? So these are the things you have to look out for and to learn and grow and to be a complete fighter. All right, guys, I hope you found this video beneficial. And if you did, please remember to like and subscribe and leave any comments. If you have any questions about what I talked about here, please hit me up and I'll gladly respond to your questions or if you have any comments. Also, please remember to check out the website, CoachDaronBoxing.com. I have my Golden Gloves course, and I go into a lot more depth on this topic and just preparing you for competition in general. So look out for the next video. I'm going to talk about the infighting style, the pros and cons. Until then, peace out, stay blessed.